young lady. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm well.
I know you're busy. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Promise I won't take more than 10 minutes.
And what's your name?
My name is Toy Hutchinson.
Good to meet you.
And I'm from the Animal Protection Society.
Animal Protection
Yes.
Society. Okay.
So I did something that I normally do when I know you guys get inundated with a whole lot of information. I put my little fact sheet on a different color. So when it
look
stands
at that.
out, please, blue for Toy.
I like it.
So I'm coming here with an ask, Mr. Representative.
Okay.
This bill's in your committee. And
It is?
It is in your committee. It's
What's
Committee on
the bill
Bills.
called?
This is the Disaster Preparedness Act.
What?
We like to
Why
call
is
it leave no.
Why is this the first time I'm hearing about this?
It just got to our committee though.
Well, but the good news is we got it here. We did as much work as we possibly could.
So this is the first time I'm
scenes.
hearing about it. You're going to have to start from scratch. 'Cause
Oh,
I don't know
absolutely.
anything about
Okay.
this. So what's it even called? What's it about?
Okay, so this is the Disaster Preparedness Act. We like to call it leave no animal behind.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is incentivize local communities who don't have a whole lot of planning in place in a natural disaster to put a plan in place to also evacuate pets.
And what's that going to cost?
Well, the good thing is this bill is our budget neutral. So we're trying to incentive, what this bill does is make it so that disaster relief funds will be sent to communities who stipulated that they have a plan in place.
But where's that money coming from?
The money's coming from the federal government.
I like it.
So the Federal Pets Act. And the way the Federal Pets Act works is that once we get in line for a disaster that's been declared that triggers FEMA, FEMA triggers the Federal Pets Act, and then 75% of the money that we put up gets reimbursed by the federal government. That means we're already paying right now for about 100% of it, but we want these towns and local communities to be in position to make sure that when they apply for the reimbursement of those funds, they're in a really strong position to do it. And we can mitigate all the additional things that we have to deal with in terms of first responders and law enforcement and all that stuff.
Wasn't there some federal law just passed that dealt with this already?
Federal Pets Act.
Yeah, so why do we need another one?
Because here's a shortcoming. Right now, that gives you, that says that we can be reimbursed for, fees and things that we do to evacuate pets in a plan like that. But it doesn't really give you very much guidance as to how to do it. And so what you end up having is a lot of different towns and communities across the state that don't have any plan in place. And if you could imagine, in a point of a disaster or a crisis, people who treat their pets like family won't leave. So you don't want a situation where you have a first responder coming to the door and arguing with someone for 45 minutes because you can't get to the next house like that.
I get the idea, but I'm still, money doesn't talk, it screams around here. So you said 75% will be covered by the federal government. Where's that other 25 going to come from?
That's what we already spend. The good thing, though,
but
is
but if you got a municipality who's not doing the plan like you said, that money is going to get spent, and someone's going to have to pay for the other 25%, right?
We're already paying for that 25%.
Well, only if they do a plan, right?
No, right now we're already paying for that 25%, and we're already paying 100% up front.
100%.
So this is going to make sure that they get involved with the local planning, the area people on the ground, like DART, who has suggested the drafting
you're
of the
saying
bill.
100% of this. I was talking about the cost of creating the plan and administering the plan and all of that.
The Federal Pets Act actually has a grant in it. So people are right now in line to apply for the grant for startup fees, for planning, for putting all this stuff in place.
Makes sense.
Our goal with this really is to make sure that we are proactive and not reactive, that we don't triple our costs on the back end when people don't have a plan in place to do this, and we want to make sure that for the communities that are doing it right, that we send that across the state.
And what all animals would this cover?
Pets. So people that...
Why just pets? Don't other animals get hurt by disasters? I'm in a very rural community, so...
They absolutely do. But really what we were looking at, the data suggests that the domesticated pets that we tend to see, and this bill actually says, I brought you up the actual language of the bill, but this bill actually talks about...
I'll let Kara read that, I'm sorry.
You know what, I brought it so I could make sure I could give it to your staff. That's why this is in blue, so that so it would stand out just for me. But the language actually speaks to dogs and cats. Not things like reptiles and amphibians and things like that people aren't going to carry a fish out in a natural disaster. But we tend to think it's more of a common sense bill. We tend to think of companion animals that people keep in their houses and treat like family.
I get that. I just, I got to deal with the cattlemen and anything related to animals. They just camel's nose under the tent. They don't want anything to do with it. So if there's something you could do that would throw them a bone, that would be great. 'Cause, what's your constituency? I'm sure.
Well, you know, we have almost 5,000 members of our organization in your district
I
right
know,
now.
but I'm an 11-term Democrat. Like,
Yeah.
who else are the puppy huggers going to vote for? I really, the cattlemen, they're mostly Republican. Those are the folks I need to kind of keep happy. So if there's anything at all you can do for them in this at all?
Well, I think that what this speaks to, though, is that a lot of times in these rural areas, people assume that, you know, sometimes animals are just utilitarian, like they're like tools. You know, if you're a ranch hand, a cattleman, and things like. But I've never met any of them that didn't have a dog, and then didn't treat that dog like they were a member of the family. I've never seen a hunter without a dog. I've never seen that. I don't know. I've just never seen that.
That is true.
They tend to be a natural constituency because in a natural disaster, and this is where it's even more important because of how important your position is on the Committee on Bills, you determine what goes on people's mailers. The votes that they take, those pieces of legislation that they highlight when they go back into their districts, are made when you decide what gets to the floor for a vote. This is a disaster preparedness thing. And it's one of those uniquely bipartisan issues.
Wait a minute.
Nobody really argues about that.
Wait, I just had an idea. You're in an animal protection group, right? Well,
Yep.
I know a little bone I could throw to the cattlemen. What's that number? H200? You know about this bill?
We do know about this, and you know what? We know that there have been a number of different people who've been, you know, gearing up to try to say that that's not necessarily
You would
humane.
not believe the emails I'm getting on that.
I have an idea for that.
Giving your people a very bad name.
I have an idea for that. Because we've got almost 5,000 members in your district of our organization, we've talked to some of our board members, and there are a couple of them that really honestly believe that your idea may be a little bit more humane than the long distances that, you know, for animals that are ended up destined for slaughter
we had
anyway.
one burned down. We're having to truck this
Right.
place all over the place. My wife is all up in arms about
So I read in the
greenhouse
State House
gases.
news that you don't like all those form emails and mass things to, I mean, I know it can be
It's not
sometimes
like I read them,
overbearing.
but I mean, they're clogging up my inbox. I can't read the stuff I
Imagine
wanted.
if it was opposite. Most legislators don't get a whole bunch, like 5,000 letters telling you how good you are, or thank you for doing something like this. We have a
Well,
strong
they
constituency.
thank us in other ways, which is why I need to please the cattlemen.
Understood. But in this point, we could mobilize the people who are already in your district. We've got the American Red Cross. We're talking about disaster preparedness. When you're, you know, in a crisis like that, like in that moment when you have to make that rash decision, those people in your district, doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter whether you work on a farm or in a factory, doesn't matter who you are, you're in crisis. And you'll be proactive. And we can turn that around to make sure that everybody knows it.
Representative, we have a little less than 3 minutes until your
Oh,
next.
you're
next
kidding.
meeting.
Time is
I promised I wouldn't take more than
flying.
10
No,
minutes.
it's not you, young lady. I just, the onslaught. I will, well, wait a minute. I got another question. So, if this will be getting money back to the towns and cities, so I assume, you know, I assume the RMA is on board with this because their
Well, the
presence
good-
in my district. I got to
Well,
see him.
the
at
president,
bar.
we understand that the president lives in your district. We are reaching out to them. We think that we can get them to really mobilize, and that'll give us.
They're not on board already? Why would they not
We're
be?
talking to them, and we think that there's some members who will, because at the end of the day, this is all going to come down to local municipal animal control
I
officers.
know, yeah.
So we think we can get some help in that area on this, but it would be even better. It would be even better since the president lives in your district. You let this bill out of committee. We believe that that's going to give us the push we need.
Yeah, but that's asking for, you know, that's the tail wagging the dog. It'd be much better for me to get it out of the committee if I had him on board. Now, so who else is for this then? If the RMA's not on board and it's going to really help them with these
no,
grants, who's
the RMA? Let's be clear about how the RMA typically does. They don't typically speak, you know, publicly about things that are not on their official legislative agenda.
That is true.
But there's not going to be, you know, the Regional Municipal Association, which is really over, you know, those mayors in your towns, are not going to, there's no reason to think that they would turn away from something that helps towns better be prepared in disaster training, because they're the first ones on the ground anyway.
I'll buy that. But what's the math on this? Who is for this? What major groups are actually supporting this in the state?
Okay, so right now, we know we have the affirmative of the Red Cross, and we just got we got some really good press recently because the Red Cross came on board. There was a good pop for Senator Jones when it went out. We believe that because of past bills, the ASPCA would probably be involved with it.
Okay.
They would want to support it. We've got DART on the ground. Our organization is 5,000 members strong just where you are, where you live.
Anybody other than the Red Cross is good. Any other non-animal groups on board with this?
We're still having conversations across the board on this, but you know,
But
literally.
who's against it? Who would oppose this then? If it's free money, helps everybody's pets, who would be against this?
I think that's indicated by how strong our co-sponsors were. We got this out of the Senate on a voice vote because we ended up having so much support. The leadership was pretty much all on board. That meant almost half your chamber is already on board with this. All we need now is a vote. We've done as much as we can possibly do. Now we just need you.
Well, I will see, I don't see, and do you have any, Carrie, do you have any other problems with this bill?
No,
Well,
we've got some letters of support from Dr. Smith, Brittany Sang.
I like
in your
Dr.
district,
Smith. Brittany, she's friends with
Clarice,
Clarice.
of course, so,
Right.
so we have received some letters.
Well, young lady, I really appreciate your time, and I will give this my most sincere consideration.
I so appreciated it. I so appreciate you taking this time. I promise it wouldn't take more than 10 minutes. Could
You're
I
a
leave
woman
this
of your
email
word.
with your staff for me?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for this. And remember, that's blue for me.
Okay.
If you need me, there's my card. That's
You take care now.
Thank
You
so
hug
much,
them
Mr.
puppies.
Representative.
All right.
Thank you.
So long.
Have a wonderful day.